This is episode 715 of the Rio Grande Foundation's Tipping Point, New Mexico. I'm Paul Gessing.
And I'm Wally Drangmeister.
I'm president of the Rio Grande Foundation, New Mexico's free market think tank. You can find out more about the foundation at riograndefoundation.org. Wally, I first want to update folks about the heat rule. This heat rule is proposed by the New Mexico Environment Department. There was a signature, a comment period open until May 30th. Hopefully, if you listen to this or if you follow the Rio Grande Foundation, you've placed a comment in the hopper, so to speak, online against the heat rule, which has some really devastating impacts if it's adopted. Very strict regulations on any work that can be done in above 80-degree temperatures, and how much time and how many resources would be used in order to do what this rule would want employers to do. And I wanted to first update folks. The comment period's been extended to July 17th. So if you haven't already commented, you can do that. You can go to airsofenchantment.com and figure out how to do that. Please go ahead and do it, because that flood of comments is obviously having an impact. They've already delayed it by nearly 2 months. So that's a victory in and of itself. But I wanted to do some digging and figure out who is behind this craziness. And, I was surprised, Wally. I know I'm somewhat surprised sometimes,
Yes.
even in New Mexico, by the craziness. But it wasn't the trades unions. It wasn't the folks who are laying asphalt in 110-degree heat. It's a different group of special interests that are behind this thing.
All right, I'm intrigued.
Well, one, you have the what you'd call the radical environmental groups, specifically Conservation Voters New Mexico. Their big thing is climate change.
Yeah, and they want to remind us every time it's hot, it's climate change. So that makes sense. Good job, man. They're going to be running commercials. And Paul, I used to work for a certain gas utility. It had a little different name than it does now, but the same one. And I used to say, why don't we do commercials? Brr, it's cold out there. Maybe turn up your thermostats. Hey, they stole my idea, but the other way. Boy, it's hot out there. It's global warming.
Yeah, it is rather humorous, I suppose.
Well, it's if you can laugh or cry, or maybe a little both.
That's when you know you have way too much money. It's just an indicator that the market for radical environmental groups in New Mexico is kind of saturated. The fact that they're basically using a messaging campaign to try to impose real-world, very costly regulations on businesses and others doing work in the heat, all for the messaging that, yes, it gets hot outside. It always has.
Well, I won't say always, but in recorded human lifetime in New Mexico. Let's be precise here. So what? The last 10,000 years, it gets hot in New Mexico.
Boy, now you're opening a philosophical can of worms, Wally, because I know that you go to the Natural History Museum and you see, and the reason we have oil and gas. Oh, now we're really getting into the circular logic.
Oh, it's because it was warm.
It was so warm, and because much of New Mexico was covered by essentially an ocean.
Yeah.
So I think it was hotter in those days, as I recall from my perusing at the Natural History Museum.
I think that's right, but I don't think you got to go back hundreds of thousands of years for that. Yes. So, but anyway, yeah, good job about
well, it's not just them; it's also the teachers' unions, NEA and AFT. In fact, one of the you go to the about page of the special interest group, the Healthy Climate New Mexico group. And you go to meet the team, which is always a first destination for me when of course they've got, a dozen or so people presumably taking full-time paychecks. The name Charles Goodmacker, and in a lovely picture of Mr. Goodmaker. He was a lobbyist for the NEA in New Mexico, and he's listed as a policy advisor. And also the organizations, some of the sponsors are the NEA and the AFT. And it's like, why teachers unions? Now, on one hand, I guess, much like the radical environmental groups, they already have so much of the low-hanging fruit that they could possibly want in New Mexico. What more could they want besides a failing education system with heavy unionization and uh,
Some
uh,
of the higher teacher salaries in the
higher
region.
teacher salaries? Yeah, those kinds of things. Very nice benefits package, etc. Um,
Well, Paul, can I say I think you may have actually already stumbled onto it.
sure.
There is an oversupply of environmental money,
Hmm.
and eh, they're like, "Hey, you guys want to sign on for this? Here's a check. You can help us out." You know what I mean?
That
And
may be.
so, it's just one of those things. Yeah, we'll do that. It's amazing. The follow the money. Are they doing that because that's their number one issue? No, but no big challenge. Paul, uh, I would just want to say, I'll for $500,000, I'll say stupid stuff too. So,
Will you? All
yeah,
right.
on this, I won't do it effectively, just like they're not doing it effectively. But it's one of those things. Yeah, and we want it to be cool outside, because when the teachers go to their air conditioned classrooms, albeit poorly maintained and late to start up because of APS anyway, they don't want to have to walk for that 30 seconds to 4 minutes to go from their car to the inside. So we're going to just lower the temperature in New Mexico by this, but we're not. It
That's the
has nothing.
easy solution. Yeah, just lower the global temperature by a few degrees, and everybody will work in comfort from
Yep,
now
there
on.
you
Yeah.
go, and you won't need air conditioning.
Well, here's an outside the box idea. Why don't they have a system of mobile solar panels that they can take over construction projects so that they can have shade for the construction workers at the same time as they are generating some tiny amount of electricity? Like they have at the golf courses now, solar
Yeah.
panels. I think this is a winner. All right, well, there's more to this story. Really quick, go to Healthy Climate New Mexico and find out what these people are up to. Well, if you do that, you find that they have various events they call Beat the Heat Fiestas, June 16th at Wells Park here in Albuquerque, 2 to 5 p.m. And it's got the City of Albuquerque logo right there. June 21st, Bataan Park, uh, taco training. I'm not sure what that means. And then snacks provided 11 a.m. to 2. Uh, Las Cruces, June 21st, Mesilla Community Center. And by the way, I'll be going to at least one of the events in Albuquerque because trying to figure out what these people are really up to. June 21st in Las Cruces, Mesilla Community Center, 10 a.m. to 2. Listed as partners, the City of Las Cruces and the Mesilla Fire Department, along with the Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine. And then we have Gallup, July 3rd, location to be determined. That's because the Rio Grande Foundation contacted some friends in Gallup, New Mexico. Originally, Gallup, the city, was listed as a partner, and they asked questions of the city manager and said, "How did we get roped into this?" And the city manager scratched his head and said, "I don't really know. They probably sold him a pig in a poke, and no longer is the city of Gallup a sponsor." So at least a small victory there. And then Espanola, July 7th at the Espanola Farmers Market. City of Espanola, to their credit, is not listed as a sponsor, but this is where they are, and we've already gotten a little bit of a notch in our belt from getting Gallup out of the game of sponsoring one of these healthy climate fiestas.
And so, Paul, if I understand this rule properly as proposed, if it's above 80, you need a 15-minute break every hour,
Mm-hmm.
45 on, 15 off. So if the people putting this on and it's above 80 degrees are working at their booth, at their table for a full hour, every one of them would be in violation of this rule were it to be put into place.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, just the bitter irony of it, and but irony is lost on causes like this.
Yeah, it's
So
hard to tell for 100% sure where physically. I assume these are mostly outdoor events here in June and July. You're pretty much guaranteed to be working in
in the
heat
in the
in excess of
afternoon,
80 degrees
yeah,
in the afternoon.
yep,
So yeah, I think that alone will be worth. I'll be using the weather app on my cell phone a few times
yeah.
to check and verify. Are these guys really adhering to their own rules and restrictions? So, uh, these battles come up. We should be focusing on real ways to improve New Mexico's economy, to focus on some of the important issues facing our state. Instead, we've got to run around in circles and get the business community ginned up for another harmful regulation that is going to do nothing to impact anybody in any positive way. It's just absolutely insanity. But I think you have too many of these well-funded environmental groups and teachers unions out there, and they've got to prove their self-worth by doing something. And unfortunately, this is the latest thing that they are doing.
Yeah, increasing the and good job, guys. Let's increase the price of housing. Let's destroy jobs, send them out. Let's improve poverty. Because your belief is the employees and employers aren't smart enough to address working in the heat. Because heaven forbid a handful of them have an issue each year. Well, yeah, handful of them get cold too. So let's have the cold rule. Let's have the moderate temperature rule.
No cold rule. We don't. No ideas. We're going to have a rain rule. We're going to have
a snow rule, a wind rule. Oh, I want the wind rule. So yeah, good. Yeah, and here's just real quick, Paul. It's one of those things. Not every regulation's crazy, stupid, or shouldn't be done. But man, there is a cost benefit, and the cost of this approach as it's proposed is astronomical, and the benefit is probably negative. It's one of those, I think there'll be no benefit to it because instead of using common sense, heck, in certain situations, Paul, I've seen it in my lifetime without regulation. There's certain heat situations where you can only have 30 minutes on and 30 minutes off. It's so hot without this regulation. So I think it could do more harm than good, and it will if this thing passes. And so yeah, we'll just good thing there's only 50 states. That's all I got to say.
Well, maybe a tornado rule. That photo that was taken.
Hail rule.
Yeah. That's. I'm not working in grapefruit-sized hail. Call me radical.
Oh yeah. Well, we need a rule to tell people that when the hail gets bigger than golf balls, you probably ought to take cover. It's like, yeah, I think they kind of know that. So.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Enough sarcasm from the peanut gallery here. Although I enjoy these sessions, Wally. So moving on to the newly introduced, newly put forth 50 states index of kids counts by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, distributed by our good friends at the New Mexico Voices for Children. Spoiler alert, we're 50th again, Wally. I know. Unbelievable. Few points to make. One is this is, a very comprehensive report put together by an organization that we are not necessarily simpatico with in our, kind of ideological orientation. Annie Casey certainly to the left, and Voices even further to the left. But they have 16 variables around economic well-being, education, health, family and community, and various sub-indexes, 4 in each category: children in poverty, teens not in school, not working, fourth graders not proficient in reading, low birth weight babies. Let's just say that broadly speaking, we agree with the report. It is a quality report. A few quibbles, but not surprising at all to us that we are in 50th or that we have been in 50th for quite some time.
Yeah, and Paul, you know, for me, when I read this report, it's like you say, there's a couple of the goals are like this is irrelevant or whatever. But in general,
Hmm.
the goals are good goals. The issues are good issues. The difference is what do we do about it? You know,
Hmm.
New Mexico Voices for Children. There's nothing about oh hey, we want New Mexico children to have a good education and be healthy and live in good families. Maybe can you say families? Is that a word you
I
can
don't
say?
know.
I don't know. I'm
It's
going to go say it. So those sorts of things are all good things, but what policies get us there as opposed to just wasting money? And so, and then the other thing, Paul, the other comment I'd make is you know, the governor's office touted that our our child welfare was a lot better because they use an alternative method.
oh no, we're going to get to that,
Okay,
sir.
very good. I won't. I will. I will be quiet and see what you have to say about
Okay,
that.
so first and foremost, I will get to the Voices for Children response by Gabrielle Ubaez, whose name may be familiar to those following the city of Albuquerque mayoral race, but this is from her article in the Santa Fe New Mexican. It is worth noting that, like our economic freedom indices, et cetera, data lag. So this is 2023 data. And as she notes, this is before the full impact of many recent policy changes has had time to take hold, including expanded child care assistance, increased pre-K funding, and expanded healthcare access. And she goes on to say that New Mexico is a national leader in free child care for families, free school meals for all students, and we've made historical investments in early childhood education, created a state child tax credit to help working families meet basic needs, and expanded healthcare access for more New Mexican families. Oh, I mean, if this doesn't work, I just can't imagine what could possibly work. Uh, and again, it's the same old routine. It's Lucy with the football. It's we're going to get there eventually. We just got to enact yet another government policy in order to do it. Well, obviously, we disagree with that quite vehemently. Now, you just mentioned the governor and her touting of New Mexico's massive poverty improvements from 50th to 17th, as you'll recall if you listen to this show. You could go back and read uh, my article in National Review, articles in New Mexico's media outlets. You could listen to testimony in the New Mexico legislature in the 2025 session as members of the progressive wing of the legislature kept talking about how we've made such progress on child poverty. Well, I know this is going to just shock and amaze you all. Shock and awe. New Mexico in the 2019 index. So remember, we're dealing with a 2-year data lag here. So 2019, children in poverty in New Mexico, 25%. 2023, the new data, this new report upon which it's based, child poverty, 25%. Man, amazing. So, without belaboring the point any further, according to the Voices for Children's report that they work with on the Annie E. Casey Foundation, yes, Annie E. Casey does the report, Voices for Children distributes the report. Voices is one of the groups, along with the governor and anyone on the left side of the political spectrum in New Mexico, touting these supposed improvements. This report says we are the same as we were 4 years ago in child poverty. And by the way, the governor was in office. Uh, I believe that was her first legislative session, if I'm not mistaken. So there you go, the massive improvement.
Yeah, boy, doing a great job. Paul, so I think Voices for Children will likely drop the Anna E. Casey Association because it just makes them look too bad. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be the first to predict that because the last thing we want is to keep track of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Paul, that 25% to 25% number, to put a little context around that, let's say, for example, that New Mexico's population was massively growing with people or something, and there's a lot more a lot more people coming to the state, a lot more children in the state. You could make some excuses. Our population hasn't grown. It
No.
hasn't grown. We've been in a very stable environment with, we have who we have here. And there's not been a lot of changes. There's just no really excuse for it that I can even think of. And Paul, I'm good at making excuses. So it's one of those. Why could this have happened? It's like maybe we're doing the wrong thing.
All right. Well, there's a few more points that I want to get to. This is one of those reports that's it's obviously very disturbing and frustrating and highlights the struggles and challenges of children in our state. So it's not lighthearted. It is lighthearted in the sense that we know what can improve New Mexico. We know what can pull families out of poverty and improve education. It's just that New Mexico policymakers are patently unwilling to adopt any of the reforms that we talk about. It is worth noting that of the sub categories, so the 16 ratings that either can go up or down, better or worse, in this index, 7 dropped and 4 improved. So we went down, got worse, and 7, only 4 improved. The rest of them stayed the same. So that is troubling because it shows that we're not, contrary to the Voices for Children's rhetoric, we are not moving the needle in a positive direction. They may think that the next big government program is going to move that needle, but we have yet to see any evidence for that. Now, this is the one that is a real kick in the pants, as if the rest of this has not been bad enough. Education overall ranked 50th. So this is a larger index, one of the 4 big ones, with 4 sub indices below it. All right, and we're right smack dab in the old COVID situation at this point, which is, of course, something you could go back and listen to Paul and Wally talk in 2020 about what a mistake it was to shut the kids out of school 2020, 2021, 2022. You could go find that for yourself. I'll leave it to you, dear listener. But here in the education world is where things really went haywire. Young children, ages 3 and 4, not in school. Now, this is the pre-K thing, so you would think that we'd be kicking butt and taking names because that's one of the new programs that we have. Well, they do a multi-year. I'm just working with the data they have. From 2014 to 2018, 56% of kids in New Mexico were in the program. 2019 to 2023, 60% not in school. So we actually saw fewer kids in the pre-K program that we've been spending so much time and money to roll out and make universal. I don't even understand that one, so I'm just going to leave that one behind. You can check it out for yourself, and that would be a great research document, I suppose. Now, the ones that are much more directly relevant, fourth graders not proficient in reading. 2019, 76%. 2024, 80%. So an already low statistic we got worse in, much worse. 8th graders not proficient in math. 2019, 79%. 2024, 86%. 8th graders not proficient in math. I lay that 100% at the feet of our esteemed dear leader, Governor Lujan Grisham, and her COVID lockdowns. So by the NEEKC index, the kids count, those 3 data points all got worse relating to education. The 4th indicator, high school students not graduating on time, got better from 25 to 24%. So how relevant is your graduation rate when the 3 indices, now granted, 3 of the one young children not in school, we actually would say that is an irrelevant data point to begin with, even though it did get worse and it only reflects what we would broadly say. But the 4th graders and 8th graders not proficient, especially 8th graders, because they're a lot closer to the graduation points in the index. But it is interesting that you see three data points go down, but the one that's most subjective, which is graduation, that one got better. And especially in the COVID era, graduation rates credibility took a real tumble because they were basically just passing anybody through that had a pulse.
Yeah, all of it. It had all the rigor of becoming a web certified pastor or whatever to do
Hey,
weddings.
hey,
So
stop making fun of the.
okay, so I just have a quick analogy. So, here's the thing, you have the report and then you have the Voices for Children's spin of the report. And the it reminds me of some poorly written headlines. Sometimes you read the article and or you read the story and it's not the same as the headline. But this is almost like, remember back to the Cerro Grande fires where we burned all the forest? It would be like the report is like the fire, but the headline is forest thinning now well underway in northern New Mexico. It's just like it's just so unhinged, and so we'll see what happens. So we'll see if anyone pays attention to this. I'm not holding my breath because Paul, this report comes out a lot, and you talk about it, a few others talk about it, but it doesn't seem like it's ever an impetus for anything good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, we discuss it every year because it is a well done report, and it is easy for us at the Rio Grande Foundation to cite conservative oriented reports dealing with the issues of economic freedom and things that we care about that reflect what we're saying. But when the left wing, which has controlled New Mexico for the better part of 100 years, reports that, yeah, all those government programs and regulations and every policy that we've been implementing has actually failed our children and failed the citizens of our state. That's a little more interesting and entertaining to report. Speaking of left wing policy, City of Albuquerque City Council is now considering the Renters Empowerment and Neighborhood Transparency Act. I don't need to tell you based on that little snippet that this is a harmful piece of public policy here. It's a slew of new regulations on landlords, and I lay out some of them. But for example, the bill would require landlords to process applications strictly on first come, first served basis, uh, and have to disclose the position in line. There's all kinds of record keeping and regulations, ban on requiring renters insurance, mandated that certain rent payment methods be made available. If a landlord is unable to address a repair quickly enough for the tenant would have the power to arrange and deduct repair cost from rent or demand reimbursement with no oversight or quality control. Uh, the bill empowers the city to uh, unilaterally determine whether a landlord has been legally evicted. All kinds of different rules and regulations. So uh, this is moving through city council. Uh, we've had success in defeating bad ideas at city council, including a recent tax increase. Go to errorsofenchantment.com and you can weigh in with your city councilors and tell them this is a bad idea. So just more rules, more regulation. Of course, this all comes back to we're in a housing crisis, not because of inadequate supply or because people don't want to live in unsafe areas of town, but no, it's because those greedy landlords are out screwing over the little guy. So,
Yeah, and rent control is the ultimate of
mm,
this, and so yeah, this is the thing, Paul. Some of these, I'm not saying that none of these items have any, what you say, any merit at all, but a lot of them are already in there in the law, and yeah, what's this going to do? It's going to make it more expensive, more costly to be a landlord, and it'll make rents go up and affordable housing go down. I think you can all but take that to the bank.
yep. All right. Moving forward, Rio Grande Foundation is currently circulating a candidate survey in the city of Albuquerque. If folks want to use this across the state in municipal elections, they are more than welcome to. But here are the questions we are asking candidates for mayor and city council here in Albuquerque. One, will you pledge to oppose any and all city tax increases while you're in office? Yes or no? Would you support amending the city charter to require a referendum before adopting future tax increases? Three, will you work to eliminate the city of Albuquerque's taxpayer funded free bus program, which has encouraged criminal behavior on city buses and at bus stations? Four, should the city of Albuquerque remain an immigrant friendly city that prohibits local police from enforcing federal immigration laws? Five, how would you increase the supply of housing in the city of Albuquerque? Please give two or more examples. Six, in a sentence or two, describe how best to address Albuquerque's homeless situation. Seven, what are your priorities for reducing crime in Albuquerque? Eight, should the city raise the minimum wage rate? If so, what should it be? Nine, should the city repeal its project labor agreement law, which increases the cost of city funded construction projects? And 10, should Albuquerque ban plastic bags? So we think, obviously, all the candidates are probably going to be talking extensively about crime and homelessness, and those are important issues, and we want to give those candidates some time to discuss them. But there are a number of economic issues of concern that I fear will be given short shrift in this particular local election in November in the city of Albuquerque. So we are doing this survey.
Yeah, Paul, it will be interesting as always to see who will fill this out and who will not.
Yeah, and I try to ask the questions in as kind of reasonable a way as
Oh,
possible.
I thought they were quite reasonable, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, right. I agree. I think Mayor Keller is probably unlikely to fill anything out, but that's okay. No, we know where he stands. A new report from Wallet Hub finds that New Mexicans spend the sixth most nationally on healthcare. Uh, this report was published recently, and Wallet Hub analyzed 5 price components of healthcare: cost of a doctor, dentist, and optometrist visits, prices of ibuprofen and Lipitor across the 50 states. It's a fairly reasonable approach. Healthcare is something very difficult to price out because we are in such, while America has the kind of reputation worldwide as being some kind of capitalist healthcare system, it is nothing of the sort. It is heavily government managed with massive doses of government policy and government funding. And of course, New Mexico has even more doses of government involvement, which is why it's so unsurprising to us that we are ranked sixth highest, sixth most expensive. And I will simply note that as health policy expert and guest on Tipping Point, New Mexico, wrote recently, Medicaid increases the cost of private health care and insurance, crowds out private health insurance and long-term care insurance, and discourages enrollees from climbing the economic ladder. And of course, New Mexico is numero uno when it comes to Medicaid recipients as a percentage of the population.
Yeah, and the other thing about this report that struck me, Paul, is that they had things that are not as much insurance controlled, optometrist, whatever, but they face all the things about higher insurance premiums that the state of New Mexico has done and other things like that. So yeah, this is a kind of a interesting take on establishing what the costs are in New Mexico, and not doing too well here.
Yeah, I think it highlights a different aspect. We've talked so much about the medical provider crisis uh, in New Mexico, and you know, it's one thing if you are paying very minimal amounts for your health care, and yet you're getting uh, ultimately care, even if it's slower or delayed. But the truth is that health care is actually quite expensive. That's as a percentage of our incomes as well. It's related to the incomes of median incomes in the state, not just on a aggregate basis. So that is worth noting. But yeah, it just is a different aspect of the broken healthcare system that we have here in New Mexico. And I will only say that we could be a poster child for if Bernie or AOC ever get their way in Washington and we really consider universal government funded health care. New Mexico is a great example of a place that's pretty much gone the path of heavy government involvement, and it's not worked out particularly well. Uh, Moving on, finally, I want to note that uh, last episode we discussed the Trump tariffs. Uh, I was very happy about that at the time because they were overturned, but then they got reinstated by an appeals court. I realized that a lot of attention has been taken away from those tariffs currently, especially with Los Angeles burning and other cities dealing with some very significant protests. But we were pleased when the court said that the tariffs were not legal, and we believe that that is accurate. The next court, the appeals court, simply said that those tariffs can remain in place until the ruling is handed down. So we'll see how the tariff discussion plays itself out. I remain very convinced that we would be better off if the Trump administration had just let them lapse and go forward, dealing with a number of other important issues of concern. And obviously, the immigration thing remains a very hot issue, not just in Los Angeles, but across the country. So that's just a housekeeping note. And then finally, Howie Morales, the lieutenant governor under this governor, Lujan Grisham, has said that he will not run for governor after all. Now, there could be an additional Democrat maybe that enters the race. I fully expect another Republican. Greg Hall is currently the only Republican saying he's running for governor. But right now we have Miyagishima, the former mayor of Las Cruces. We have Sam Bregman, DA here in Bernalillo County, and we have Deb Haaland. So we have kind of what I think is a difficult road as it stays now for the Democrats to elect somebody or bring somebody out of their primary that is, not Deb Haaland. I think Deb Haaland, with two kind of more moderate voices, she is sitting in a very good position to win the Democratic nomination.
Yeah, she would be anyway, but then you take those two and put them together combined. Yeah, I actually wanted to see how he run, to see what he would say, and if he would have some version of a more moderate Democrat, but alas, not to be. So,
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Morales would have been or has been seen as a more moderate voice relative to the governor, um, but tied to the governor nonetheless. And I think that probably was setting uh, his path up to be quite a difficult one because you do have, at least within the modern New Mexico Democratic Party, Bregman and Miyagishima are relatively moderate voices, maybe hearkening more closely back to the Richardson administration era viewpoint on policy, broadly speaking, although we may be surveying candidates in the gubernatorial race and hoping to try to pin them and other folks down on their views on some critical issues. But uh, yeah, I don't think the path was very clear for Howie Morales. And I don't know, have we seen the last of Howie Morales in New Mexico politics or not? Uh, the way we elect lieutenant governors is a little unique in this state where they are running separately through the primary process and then joined. And of course, Morales, to say he has little to no control over what Michelle Lujan Grisham does is pretty much an understatement. He, I'm sure, had very little uh, to say about what Lujan Grisham was doing as she was the governor and could do whatever she wanted within the realms of kind of her views of very expansive government power. So anyway, don't think it's really going to affect the race that much, but it is relevant to know that Howie Morales is not running for governor. So
Yeah, and just a quick aside, Lieutenant Governor has not been the stepping stone to governor in any great amount in New Mexico. So you have to look back to Tom Bolak was Lieutenant Governor, and he was governor for all of 1 month. And before that, you have to go back to, and again, this is according to AI, and I would double check it before putting it out there. But the other one, you have to go back to Ezekiel Cabeza de Baca in 1912 to 1917. So it's, I was just thinking in my memory, has there
So
ever...
he was lieutenant governor who became governor right at statehood?
Yeah,
That's
yes.
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's quite a promotion. Well, I'm not a historian of New Mexico's lieutenant governors. I do know that the way it works currently and has worked is that they are chosen separately by their parties, and of course we've really had 4 governors under the modern New Mexico governance approach.
Where you could serve twice.
2 terms as governor, and they were 4-year terms, and none of those lieutenant governors have had the chance to take over and govern in any substantive way, starting with Gary Johnson, of course, Bill Richardson, Susana Martinez, and Michelle Lujan Grisham. So I don't know. It's it definitely is a paycheck for 8 years.
A low stress paycheck from everything I can tell, because the governor usually doesn't want you to do anything. You know what I mean? The Constitution gives you some rights when they leave the state.
Right.
But other than that, stay in your office and don't talk to the press.
And this governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, has definitely embarked upon a lot of travel, as was reported in the Albuquerque Journal. So Howie has had his opportunities to sit at the big kids table, so to speak, for a little while, but nothing of real substance there. And obviously the lieutenant governor theoretically exists for the sole purpose of, should a governor fall ill, die, incapacitated in some way, shape, or form, they take over. But
the first runner-up in Miss America, basically the same role with all the same responsibilities. Nothing.
Yeah.
Paul, of one final thing,
Sure.
If memory serves me correctly, the last lieutenant governor who actually did anything was Roberto Mondragon, when I believe it was Bruce King, although